parents were really horrible with money. They didn't know how credit cards work. They didn't know how anything worked. So they just put themselves neck deep in debt, and then they started to gamble. I remember worrying about money a lot as a kid. Like, a kid shouldn't worry about it, but I was like, how are we gonna pay rent? So Terra Luna was the company that everyone believed was solvent. So they gave them a ton of money. One thing led to another, and Three Arrows Capital pretty much sunk the whole crypto world.
AI creating content. The quality content creator is less valuable than the marketing behind it. You as a content creator, are you gonna get phased out by AI?
Probably at some point, I don't know.
Welcome to the DV podcast, where we talk about business, life, social media, and how you can become the best version of yourself. On today's episode, we're interviewing my good friend, Andrei Jikh. He's a YouTube finance creator with over 2 million subscribers and a massive brand. So we actually got to play the game Monopoly while we interviewed him. It's a really interesting conversation. Hope you guys enjoy. All right, cool. Andrei, so thanks for joining us. We have a thing we do on this podcast, which is the previous guest writes a question for you,
Okay.
and we answer it. I don't know what the question
cool.
is. Yeah, so.
You don't know what the question is yet?
No, and they don't know who the guest is.
Okay.
So we'll tell you, last question was, this might not apply to you, but if you could, it says, what book would you gift the most? But then there's a question above it from the same person. So I'll ask you the first one because you don't really read that much. Or
sure.
gift books.
No, not really. Yeah.
If you could go back and tell your 20-year-old self one thing, what would you say?
If I could go back and tell myself when I was how old?
20.
20.
So like 35 years ago.
Ooh. It's funny, I asked that to someone pretty recently who, I don't actually remember who I asked, but they had a really clever answer. They said they would not say anything because I wouldn't want to change anything that would have ever happened. So I suppose if I did go back and said anything, I would probably say that everything's going to be all right, you'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. I think when we're in our 20s, we're so like stressed about life and finding our career. And actually, I just watched your video today where you talked about success, and you said something that I thought was really interesting. You said that success is an ongoing thing, and it's not something that you achieve and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm successful. It's something you're constantly working toward. I really resonate with that, so I think that's a cool thing to know.
Mm. Yeah, people oftentimes, let's pick our pieces out, by the way. You want to be the thumb thing?
The thumb? The thimble.
The thimble. What's it called? It's called a thimble?
I think it's called a thimble. You want to see some thimble magic?
What is thimble magic?
I don't know who I'm supposed to play to, the camera or you guys. Here, we'll try a little vanish. Check it out.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. To the camera this time.
I was hoping he was gonna say something like, "Well, I do run the #1 finance channel. I would definitely buy Bitcoin." Like,
anyway, enough with the magic. Let's talk finance.
The interesting thing about Andrei is you're very careful about never having a conflict of interest in your videos.
I try.
Like, you will intentionally do the opposite of something. Like, if there's an opportunity where it could even be perceived like a conflict of interest.
Right. No, it's funny. We were talking about opinions the other day with Meet Kevin, and we talked about this thing where it's like, I care less about providing my own opinion and more about just showing people facts and data. Mm-hmm. And then I'll give my little opinion at the end that's not much of an opinion because anyone can have an opinion. So I just want people to make up their own mind, and I'll show you the data and be as objective about it as possible. But at the end of the day, no one, I think, knows where the markets are going, things like that.
Oh.
Where do we start?
Bam.
Right
here. Yeah. So you can go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you know how this works?
I think I do. I haven't played in forever, though.
So you roll a 10, so you go to jail.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's not fair.
Dude, I mean, look, dude, you're that's how it goes. So, all right.
And then how do I get out of jail again?
You have to either roll doubles.
Okay.
Or you have to draw a get out of jail card.
yeah.
How am I going to draw that if I'm not moving?
So the game goes.
Can we start over?
Sure.
Okay,
let's do this. Why don't we start over? But this time we'll play the other way. That way, you at least can't get jail.
You can play the other way?
We'll play this time.
So. Yeah. Wait, the other way is also jail.
No.
Okay.
So if you land on this one, you're just visiting. You're not actually in jail. Okay. So we'll play that way.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Oh, do I go that way now?
10.
All right. 10.
So
10.
So go that way. Okay.
Boom.
Cool.
Okay.
Just visiting. Hey. What?
Should we tell him or no?
No, he's good. Okay. Yeah, you're actually not in jail right now. Yeah, you can leave. So I gotta Yeah.
The game goes this way.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I just,
Jeez.
I don't know
Great.
why. That's funny.
Hilarious.
For a finance YouTuber, you're don't know how to play Monopoly.
I don't. I've not played Monopoly in forever.
You played it before, though,
Do you
right?
think that if you have kids and you taught them to play Monopoly, they would learn how to invest better?
Dude, I mean,
I've always been like trying to figure out tricks, and like if I had a kid, right? If I was to teach my kid how to invest and like value money, how would I do that? And I feel like this is kind of a fun way.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
What about Cash Flow, Robert
Oh my
Kiyosaki's
god,
game?
I've never played Cash Flow.
Okay. I mean, it's fun. But it's kind of redundant.
Yeah,
But the whole idea is there's like the rat race,
yeah,
and then there's the fast track, I think. And so when you get out of the rat race takes like 45 minutes to get out of.
Sure.
And then when you're in the fast track, you win the game in like 2 minutes.
right. You know how Warren Buffett taught his kids to invest? He put a slot machine in their house, and then he gave them allowances, and he allowed them to gamble their allowances away, and then he would just gift it right back.
Oh, okay.
And then taught them the value of money that way. Kind of
smart.
interesting.
I feel like it would be cool to have a gamification of teaching kids about investing, assets, taxes, and stuff through a game.
Yeah.
I don't think the game exists yet, though.
Maybe.
I think there's a.
Ooh.
So-
Tennessee Avenue. Is that a good one to buy, you think, or usually
So my theory with Monopoly is I buy everything I land on for the first like 3 rounds.
not? Okay.
That is a good property to buy, but you kind of want to acquire as much assets as you can early on so that you can leverage them to trade when it's more rare.
180.
Um,
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, do you know your demographic as far as viewers? Like, can you see if there's kids watching or younger people?
I can, yeah. Most of my audience is between the ages of, what was the breakdown of the ages? I think it was like 26 to 34 or 28 to
I
34.
think that's a 1.
That was the majority of the audience.
26 to 34.
Yeah, 28 to 34.
Which is a great 28, which is a great audience because
Yeah, and then
they
18 to
typically-
24 is the other second.
and
highest.
probably like 95% men.
Yeah, pretty much like 90% men, 10% female. Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, is it my turn?
My turn. So, I think we're in that. 1, 2,
Sounds
3,
like I
4,
can't
5,
multitask,
6,
guys.
7. Earlier before we
He's
started,
like, if our guest is smart, they'll talk and they'll play.
and I'm sitting here, I can't talk
He's
or
just
play.
like, what do I do? Nice.
So, look, you're one of the most successful finance YouTubers, period, on the planet.
I've tricked them.
You've tricked them.
Okay.
You pretend that you're good at finance. What led to that point? Was it like, were there a bunch of skills you developed over time that just kind of like came together with YouTube, or like why are you so successful at it?
Yeah. Gosh, I don't know if I'm super successful at it, but
Wait, let me ask you this: who's the most successful investor in the world?
investor in the world,
Yeah.
probably Warren Buffett.
Who would
Right?
be the second most, or second best, maybe firm or something?
I don't know. I didn't think about that.
Okay.
I see where you're getting at.
As I was asking the question, I started to see this. But no, what I really meant is what I meant to say. I was gonna say, like, no matter whether you're first, second, or third, whatever investor, you're still incredibly successful.
Sure.
And you're saying, I don't think I'm that successful. I'm like,
Right.
and if you compare anything else in the world, the second best, third best, 10th best soccer player in the world
Right.
is still successful.
What do you consider
So yes,
best?
you are successful.
What do you mean by best, though? Like highest subscriber rate, or?
I mean, I guess, yeah, maybe that's subjective.
Yeah.
Like, how would you define best?
Well, I guess in your question, it means like the most subscribed channels, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, to quantify it, you are probably the second most subscribed finance channel.
I guess, yeah. Yeah, I think it was more so because my parents were really horrible with money and they didn't invest. So I remember being really young and having to worry about money, almost like a kid shouldn't worry about it, but it was like, how are we going to pay rent? Oh my God, I don't know. And then my parents, when they came to Vegas, since they were immigrants from Russia, my dad's actually from Ukraine, so I'm like half and half. And it's crazy because they didn't know how credit cards worked, they didn't know how anything worked. So they just put themselves like neck deep in debt, and then they started to gamble. And I remember worrying about money a lot as a kid. And then I remember saying to myself, like, I never wanted to worry about it again. But luckily I was also exposed to successful people, just enough to have that question. And I think that's really the make or break difference between getting investing early in life and not, is kind of seeing that and asking the right question early enough, because most people don't ask the right question of like, what do I do with money? How do I invest it? Until their 30s or 40s. And by then you've lost decades of compound interest. So I was fortunate enough to have a very, not very wealthy lifestyle, but also be exposed to a little bit of it here in Vegas, and a lot of performers are really wealthy, to see that there's a different possibility. And then always ask people like, how do I invest? What are you guys doing with your money? And it's funny because in the performer world anyway, like my parents are from Cirque du Soleil, like they were acrobats growing up, everybody lived paycheck to paycheck, and nobody questioned it. It was like normal. It was like, oh yeah, they just spend all their money. And so that's what we did. And I knew that there had to be an alternative, so that's how I got into it. But which is funny because my dad's a performer, he's a gymnast, but he showed me a magic trick. He showed me a card trick when I was like 6. I was like, this is cool, I want to get into that. And then he took me to a magic shop. Yeah, he did one trick for me when I was like 6. And it stuck with me ever since. And then when he came to Vegas, to America for the first time when I was like 9, we went to these shops called the Houdini magic shops, which are like in every casino. They're kind of like these gag magic shops.
They got like the thumb
props,
thing.
yeah. And I was like, this is cool. I want to learn how to vanish sponge balls and do all these funny things. So I learned how to do magic. But at that time, there were these like bulky cameras, if you remember, like the VCR or like VHS tapes that you had to like put in there. And so I started to record videos of my progress. And so my videos started to level up, and then my magic leveled up, and I was like, so my magic's cooler, I got to make cooler videos. And they both kind of leveled up together. And all the while those skills were progressing, I started to become more interested in finance because, our lifestyle was kind of struggling at the time. So I was like, well, let me start investing, let me figure this stuff out. And then I eventually started to work for a startup company. It was a magic company where we taught people how to do magic tricks. It was kind of like the iTunes of magic, essentially. And it was cool because we made luxury playing cards that got into like Targets and Walmarts and like super cool stores. I started to perform with Amazing Jonathan, who's a comedian here in Las Vegas. So I got the showbiz side, I got the e-commerce side. So I explored every aspect that I could in magic. And after almost 10 years in that industry, I realized that given my skill set, it was so small and so contained that if I wanted to expand, I had to do something else. Because my salary at that time, after 8 years of working at this startup where we taught magic, who, by the way, in that company, I was basically doing video production. So I was obsessed with like cinematography for like 20 years. And after doing that in the magic industry, I was like, oh man, I'm not gonna get very far with this. So I got to like $65,000 a year, which is great money for like Las Vegas because we don't have a high cost of living. But overall, I was like, I don't see myself being here for the rest of my life. And after negotiating and failing to get a raise, because I ultimately wanted to be at $100,000 a year, I left that job and I did not start YouTube right away. I was like depressed for 2 years of my life because I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I had all these random skills. I was like, I'm good with cinematography, magic, storytelling, cardistry, finance, and investing. I've done it for 8 years now, 10 years. I was like, no one's gonna hire me. So I applied, literally applied to 50 positions. I didn't get a single interview. Didn't get a single call.
Dang.
Yeah, and
What was
and
on
my,
your resume?
My resume was awesome. Like I spent so much time on doing it, but it was right before companies realized the power of social media, right before it started blowing up, where like everybody wanted to hire their own video editor, and that was like right before that point. So I didn't get any calls, especially because Vegas, like we didn't really have a market for that at the time. It was all LA, New York. I didn't
So
want to move
you're
there.
how old at this time?
At that time, I was 28.
Oh wow, so you're not like
It
19,
was not
20,
like
it's
19, no.
People like, you gotta figure your life out now,
Yeah,
right?
which is so crazy because like as you get closer to your 30s, or at least I experienced this, I imagine some people do too, is like you start to put pressure on yourself because so much of my identity at that time was like my magic and my cinematography, and people knew me in that industry for those things. There was lots of people that I worked with that I looked up to. I got to work with like J.J. Abrams and John Chu and like all these directors from Hollywood, and they actually watched our cardistry and our magic, and they were customers of ours from that company. So they knew us by name. I got to like perform for these people. I got to consult on movies like Now You See Me, and it was this crazy part of my life where that was so much of my identity that it was so hard to leave that behind and let that part of me like die or evolve. And so I was like, man, I can't talk about finance on YouTube. It was like, people can be like, oh, you do magic tricks. Why would I listen to you? So for 2 years, I just doubted myself. And I actually made a full video. I uploaded it on YouTube in 2018, and I never published it. And it was a great video. And I was like, no one's going to watch it. So I never uploaded it. I waited another year. I rejected every gig and everything that like came my way. And I lived that year on like $10,000 a year. Now, luckily, I was doing Airbnb, so like I had my rent paid for. I like ate ramen noodles basically. I didn't eat much. And if you go back to 2019, Andrei, and see my videos, I look so different. I'm like very, very skinny.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. So 2019, I finally found the courage to do it, and yeah, it was kind of took off. I was at the right place at the right time with the right skill set. It was crazy.
What actually helped that? Because when you started with dividend video.
Yeah,
right.
Dividend investing. Yeah.
Yeah, and in doing that, you had a portfolio. So that time, were you in like the FIRE movement, just like free?
I was. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The FIRE movement was awesome. I love that. There was like Mr. Money Mustache and like all these bloggers that would talk. This was like cutting edge stuff at the time.
Yeah.
There was like a blogger who was like, here's how much money I'm spending every month. And was like, oh my God, heresy.
Yeah.
How he's revealing how much he's spending on his cable and his phone bill. And it was like, this is so cool. And I was like, what if someone did that for like video on YouTube? That would be so cool. I would watch that. Someone needs to do that.
Okay.
And then it's crazy, and it was just right at that time when people also started to come to that same realization. So you had a couple people try it out. That's when Graham started coming up in like 2017, 2018. Jeremy, Kevin, all of them started at that point. Had I not doubted myself, I would have started at the same time, but I just didn't do anything for 2 years. Yeah.
But who knows if you would have actually, got going then, or you could have failed and given up.
True. I'm sure it would have been better to start earlier. I think I would have been much better off had I started earlier. And that's the hardest part, is just to start.
So for someone looking at that though, right? So you kind of had the thing where, you transitioned and you had money stacked up. Like you were able to step away from your job to go full force with.
Yeah.
Is that right?
No, it was crazy. I had $200,000 in my portfolio in 2019, which I was not willing to sell. I was like, this is my retirement money. I'm not going to touch it. At the time, I was probably making about $300 to $500 a month in dividends. So I was like, worst case scenario, I could use this money to like pay for food or something, right? But I continued reinvesting. I had about $15,000 left in my bank account, my checking account. And with that money, I bought myself a computer, a camera, and that was pretty much most of it. Between like the studio setup that I designed, I spent money on the studio, I spent money on the camera, the lens, everything. And I was left with a couple $1,000s in my bank account. I was like, well, here we go. And if this doesn't work, the worst thing that can happen is, and I'm very fortunate to have been able to do this, but I was like, I'll just move in with my parents again, which is, hard thing to do when you're approaching your 30s. But if that's my worst outcome, I was like, I'll gladly take it.
You were living crazy because we met around that time, and you were living with your girlfriend.
Yep.
You were living with your roommate Angelo.
Yep.
And
between all three of us, we were paying $400 a month, and that's not.
And your grandma.
And my grandma was there. That's right.
And you were Airbnb-ing out.
Yeah.
And your studio was like a corner of your bedroom.
It was like this like this wooden wall.
There was like a cutout in his bedroom and like you would never know.
Yeah,
like,
you'd never know.
The first time I saw him, like, dude, this is where you have grown to 500,000 subscribers.
This is
and
where
I
the
lived
empire
there.
started.
Yeah, and I lived there for over a year after the YouTube thing blew up, and I was living really, really frugally. And then I realized at a certain point, if I wanted to expand and get to the next level, the thinking that got me here won't get me there. And so I slowly started to expand, and yeah, that's how that came to be.
So for someone who maybe is in the same spot, like $1,500 in their account, and they're like, I want more, like I'm not happy with my job or my current situation.
Yeah.
What's like the Andrei advice for them?
For people with $1,500.
You said that's how
15K.
much.
Yeah.
You
I
said
had
15K.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so you bought the camera and the studio and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah.
Let's scale that back to like 5K.
Okay.
5K in my account. I'm 28. I'm not happy.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Gosh, at 28, I would probably invest in my education. I would probably go to either school again or get a certification. And I feel like nowadays you don't have to have a degree. There are so many like training schools and, you know, to become like a software engineer. That's what I would have done. So I told myself, if this YouTube thing fails, I would go back to school, or not like traditional school or college necessarily, but get some
Learn a
credits.
high income skill.
Yeah, learn a high income skill. And for me, that was either cybersecurity or software engineering, somewhere in that realm, because it still interested me. Because actually, I know a lot of cybersecurity people and people that are in software. A lot of them, believe it or not, it's the weirdest thing. They're also magicians. Like, they like magic. And because they say, like, you're still using the same part of your brain, that creative part, to try to find like vulnerabilities, and that's kind of how you think about it as a magician. Yeah. And I was like, this is cool. I would do this.
I'm sorry.
What's up?
It's just said nothing. I just had a random thought. Yeah.
Share it.
Okay. No, it's because we were talking about, you know, fact finding in sales, and you have, you know, needs and wants, and you know, there's a challenge or a pain point, but it was like a 30-minute debate on, like, you know, our process right now, and we were just talking about, you know, that vulnerability and that part of it. But yeah, that was it. That was literally it.
There was no punchline on that.
There was no punchline on
like,
it.
it connected.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Well, we need to make a new move.
I think it's your roll.
Oh, it's my roll.
Yeah.
That's 2?
2, yeah. I know, the dice I had to grab. You're back in jail. No, I'm just kidding.
Free parking.
So you get $500.
I do?
Yeah.
Why?
Or 1,000. Remember how much?
Why do we get 1,000?
You get we're supposed to put $500 in the middle, and you keep it.
Why?
I don't know. It's one of the rules of the game. That's yours. This one stays in the middle for next time.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, if you land on free parking, you get the pot in the middle.
Oh, great.
Anytime you land on something going around the side, like luxury tax or income tax, that gets added to the middle.
Sure.
For the pot.
Oh, I see. Got it.
Yeah.
Cool. Your move, Nick.
Okay.
Do you play games at all, like board games, or like, what do you do
play
for
more
fun?
Jackbox. You guys ever play Jackbox?
Yes.
We play Jackbox all the time.
Jackbox before.
If you have not had Jackbox, if you ever have a get together, get Jackbox.
It's expensive though, dude.
It's like, kind of expensive. It's like $70. Or no, it's not $70.
But they have like 8 packs.
They have so many games that'll last you for years.
Just get like Quiplash is the one I like.
Quiplash is the best.
And they have a drawing one that's fun.
Yeah. I like swimming. I don't swim as much as I'd like to. You have a pool now though, so we're gonna swim.
Dude, yeah, no, I'm so stoked. I've been bathing in that thing like every day. I no longer use my shower or my bathtub. I just
you just come chlorinated.
Yeah. Advanced to Boardwalk. Okay, so this is a good card. So I just got Advanced to Boardwalk, and so now I get to take my hat. Can you move my hat over to here? And I can buy Boardwalk, which is arguably
one of the best ones. Yeah.
Properties, yeah.
I remember that much. 1, 2, 3,
I do owe you
4,
rent,
5,
Andre.
6, 7. Oh, you do?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Why?
Tennessee.
Oh,
think-
you
don't
landed
you
up
have Tennessee?
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I do. Oh my gosh. You owe me $14.
Okay. On the skill set thing,
Thank
though, so like if someone was starting over, you know, get a high income skill set, you know, the thing was like you were kind of getting those skill sets, but you didn't. The skill set was like video production, editing, which is, you know, that's what's in demand now.
Right. What's interesting, what I learned about in life, and is that as I progressed through different careers, whether it was magic, cardistry, cinematography, YouTube, I realized that life is, like, this is how I think about the analogy of life. We go through life collecting ingredients that we find look delicious, right? Whether that's, you know, cinematography or whatever it was. That's what I was doing. I was collecting. And it wasn't until I started YouTube when I realized what the recipe was. So I realized how to put all those things together to leverage the skills to talk about something greater than the skills themselves. And I feel like a lot of people would, and there's nothing wrong with this, I did it for most of my life, will focus on perfecting our craft, like becoming the best video editor or the best magician or whatever it is. And that's just not good enough to reach like if you want to reach like a crazy level, you have to be able to leverage the tool to tell a bigger story than the tool itself, if that makes sense. So for example, in magic, there's a ton of magicians, right? One of the most prolific magicians is David Copperfield. And it's not because he's a great magician, it's because he was able to leverage the tool that is magic, like the craft and the art of magic, to tell a bigger story about the world. Because his branding is more about doing the impossible, living the dream. And so he leveraged that tool of magic to tell those very important ideas to the world and distill them in a way that people could process and relate with. And so with magic and cinematography and finance, I was like, yeah, I could get a job maybe by myself in those little categories, but if I could leverage those skill sets to tell something more important about the world, then I think that would be, more valuable.
Makes sense, yeah.
So it sounds like for you, it's like the magic of finance.
Yeah.
Like it makes so much sense.
It does.
But
yeah.
I bet if we went back like 5 years,
No.
like it'd be like, how do I combine these?
Yeah,
Right?
no, oh my God, it was impossible. And now it seems so organic. Like, oh, of course it makes sense.
Yeah,
That
of
was
course.
obvious.
You just do magic of finance. But then like I'm a person, I'm sitting with my skill set. I'm sitting here wondering how the heck do I combine everything into this? Like
Yeah.
Andrei's was easy. It was just magic and finance.
Yeah,
Duh.
yeah.
But like I don't know, like how do you figure that out?
Trial and error, I guess.
It wasn't that at the start, was it?
It wasn't like that at the start. I think I actually saw a comment early on. Someone's like, "Oh, the magic of finance. This is cool. You should name it that." And I was like, "That's brilliant." I just saw it. I was like, "That makes so much sense." Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how to do it, but I like for my girlfriend example, Corey. She's going through this phase of her life where she's still collecting ingredients, right? She's not at the phase of like, let me build a recipe. She's just like, let me try different things that I relate with and let me get good at them. And then I'll find the recipe later. And I think there's nothing wrong with just like going through life and figuring out what you like and what you don't like. And some people don't discover that recipe until their 40s, 50s, sometimes 60s. So.
And you can have some thought to it. Like if you go and do things that are like in demand, like you can work on communication, sales or video editing, and those things maybe plug in together with something else.
Yeah.
That makes sense versus like, let me go be a janitor. It's
Right,
like,
right.
I don't know.
What I found interesting was
Yeah.
if you combine two unlike things, and the more unlike they are, the more powerful that combination is. Like magic has nothing to do with finance. Not really. But I found a way to mix them in a way that's like, oh, it makes total sense how they're still together and why.
Like they have like bacon on donuts now.
Yeah. You're like, what? Yeah. I guess, what's a food that's like you would never think would be good together? I guess peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Why would you combine the two? And now they're amazing. But I guess that's how you can think about it. And if you want to do social media, for example, if that's something you want to do, and if you have a passion for something and you're like, this would never work, you'd be surprised to see if you can combine your passion with something that people want to watch. And you can think about it as like stuff I want to make, stuff people are searching for. The place I exist is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, because so many people focus on like, follow your passions and the money
Right.
will come. It's like, that's horseshit, honestly, because it's like, well, like I like weaving, Like
Yeah.
I'm going to sit here and weave and make money.
Yeah.
But you can find out where's the market, you can find out what you like to do, and if you can find that intersection point,
Yeah.
because magic was a 65, you were level 10 skill set, level 1
Yeah,
opportunity.
in magic, I was like, there's no going further for me. At least not in the way that I wanted to. Like, I could go into showbiz, but I never wanted to have my own show or anything crazy. I didn't want to be famous with magic. I just liked doing magic, and I got pretty good at it. And I was like, this is as good as it gets. And then I was like, oh, being a video editor here, this is as good as it gets. Cool, I got it. And yeah, figured out how to break the ceiling, but.
Yeah, one kind of analogy is like, if someone's the best janitor in the world, and you could be the best, the cleanest floors on earth, there's a potential to that vehicle.
100%,
So
yeah.
it's like, let's stack up skills and then throw yourself in that vehicle, and there's no cap.
Right.
Ideally. It doesn't have to be that though.
No,
Yeah.
I rolled a 10. I'm excited. Where does this go? Sorry, who's, oh,
That's
that's
yours.
mine.
You just
Yeah,
brought
yeah,
that.
that's yours.
Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No!
Oh, we're so excited.
Of course, I get to pay the taxes. How much is it?
Only $100 right in the middle.
That's a lot. Oh, you're gonna. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to buy that one.
So, what are you buying?
I'm buying, what does that say? Kentucky.
Got it. So the market's crazy right now. We're in such unprecedented times. They're looking at scaling back inflation when they're like, inflation went down, it actually just slowed down. Or
Yeah.
not even realistically, year over year, it's still way up.
Right. Well, it's 8.3% this month as compared to 8.5% last month. So it is slower, but it actually isn't.
Kentucky or
Yeah. Oh,
What did you get?
Kentucky. Yeah. There we go.
Kentucky.
Kentucky. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy because this month's CPI is 8.3 versus last month's 8.5.
What in CPI it means?
The CPI means the Consumer Price Index, which is the official way that economists like to measure the Consumer Price Index, which is how you measure inflation.
Okay.
So it is down. But what's interesting is that gas went down. You see, one of the biggest reasons why inflation is so high this year is because food and gas prices, especially gas. But gas for the past few months has actually been going down. And yet inflation has not gone down as much as it should have. And that's because all of the other categories have went up substantially. So in reality, there's actually a different metric to measure inflation called the PCE, which is the personal consumption expenditures. It's the Fed, or the central bank's, favorite way of doing it, because what it does is it removes food and gas out of the calculation. And the reason they remove food and gas out of it is because they say that, like, no matter how high those go up, you're still going to have to buy food and gas, right? So because they're volatile and they shift so much, they just throw them out to get a general perspective of like where inflation's going. And that PCE number is actually way more than economists expected. It's 0.6% versus the 0.3%.
0.6%.
Yeah, versus the 0.3% they expected it should have been.
Okay,
So it's more than double their expectations, yeah. So inflation is not really slowing down as much as people think. But what's cool about everything is that what matters the most about inflation is not prices as much as your perception of where inflation's going.
So if I perceive that inflation is going down, I will change my buying behavior and
Correct.
my investing behavior.
Correct. It's interesting because this is why I love economics so much, is because so much of it is like magic, because it's all one big magic trick. It's all misdirection. Their job is to misdirect you into believing a certain narrative, and their goal is to make you believe that inflation's going down.
Got it. Is that why they didn't declare a recession when, you know,
No, that's just for elections.
Have they done it? Have they declared one yet or no?
Ooh, Oriental. I'll buy that. Actually, with your guys' creators agency and agency box, what's like your guys' goal with this company? The reason I ask that is because every business person that I've met, and you guys are like more entrepreneurial, every entrepreneur wants to be a creator, and every creator wants to be an entrepreneur, is what I've observed so far. And I could see that you're doing more social media, and it's interesting because I'm trying to dive more into your world, and I'm trying to be more entrepreneurial because I want to make money if my YouTube channel doesn't exist. And you want to amplify what you're doing through YouTube. So it's this interesting dynamic of like the grass is greener. So I'm wondering, like, what is your goal with your social media and like with your businesses that you're running?
Dude, the thing is like the grass is greener on the other side thing is always going to exist if we allow it to.
Right.
Because when we achieve something at a high level in life and realize I'm not happy, it's like we look for the next best alternative. And so it's like I have clients that they've sold a company for hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're like, okay, like I'm still not happy. What's next? And then they try to build a brand or whatever else.
Are most of your clients kind of on the wealthier side? So I have met a lot of like disproportionately wealthy people trying to be YouTubers, for example. And what's interesting about that is it's very hard to buy that. And I think that's kind of outside the realm of like when you think of the entrepreneurial business or the mindset. It's like I could probably invest in it and buy it and throw money at it until the problem solves itself. But social media is just not like that. It's very difficult to buy the outcome of, I suppose, a successful channel.
Yeah, unless you, like, think about like music labels or entertainment. Like they effectively buy their talent, fame, or whatever. But
You're talking about plants, though.
Well, yeah, to some extent, but
Yeah.
but the thing is, just they're crafting the whole, like they're crafting the person's image, what they talk about, how they dress, what they sing about, what they look like.
Yeah.
The thing with like wealthy people trying to buy their social media fame is like they haven't crafted any of the stuff that people actually want to see.
Right.
And so they're coming with this stuff that no one cares about,
Yeah.
putting money behind it, and
Right.
they're like, why is it not working?
Right. They just want the outcome, but not the actual. They don't have anything to say, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Or they, you know, they just
So if let's say I'm a rich dude who's like maybe a little bit older, and I'm just like, Dylan, make me famous.
So you are those.
I am that. No, but let's just say that I come to you and I'm as a client, I'm like, you obviously understand I have some money to pay you and your agency to maybe advertise for me. Do you take on the client and you're like, sure, we'll do this, or do you kind of advise them and say, hey, before we do this, you should probably be passionate about talking about something? Do you consult with it? Like, how does that work? Or do you just tell them like, hey, you shouldn't be doing this, just to go enjoy your money in retirement?
Well, our goal is to help people achieve what they want to achieve. So if they want to be able to move towards social media influence, we will help them in whatever way possible.
No.
You're just visiting.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean, we're not going to turn someone away because like, hey, like your personality sucks.
No, I'm not saying personality. I'm just saying, or maybe you haven't had those clients where they approach you and they're just like, hey, just make me famous.
No, we've had some.
You've had some?
We have them. And we work with them, but we have different phases. It's like first phase 1, we got to craft your brand, your story, your narrative. Step 2, we grow some influence. Right, and so we go through the phases where hopefully at the end of it, they have more of an established presence.
Now, the stuff you do with your clients as far as growing their social media, is that something that you employ or use for your strategy for growing your channel?
Yeah, of course. You got to be a product of the product.
Okay.
Your course was a YouTube, how to build a YouTube channel course.
Sure.
You teach things you talk about.
Yeah.
Everything we sell is stuff that I have implemented.
Okay.
So how we create content, how we edit, how we grow social profiles. Having said that,
do you spend money on advertising though, as far as paying people to give you shout outs?
Dude, I paid you a lot of money to be here today.
We don't talk about that.
We're joking.
You didn't pay me anything. I don't know where my check is. Roll your dice.
Let me buy this right here.
What is it?
Marvin Gardens.
Marvin's. Going back to that question though, like, business owners want to be creators, and creators want to be able to have businesses.
Sure.
So my first job when I dropped out of Cornell University was with Grant Cardone, and his deal was there's only one reason to do social media, to monetize, and that was like the school of thought that like I got brought up with social media, was to like have an intention to monetize. But like when I hear a business owner wants to be on social media, it's because they know it creates more opportunities and it makes them more valuable in the marketplace.
Right.
And essentially, more indestructible. They have more control of like, monetization.
Right.
And then vice versa, if a creator wants businesses, those businesses are an asset that's producing income and revenue outside of themselves. So if they go and something happens to their voice or they get sick for a month, they still have something that helps them be indestructible.
Right.
And I think it just goes towards that purpose or that thing of like wanting to be in a better place to thrive and survive and just win.
For sure.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any kind of hybrids that, off the top of your head, that you maybe aspire or to be, or
Like what I would want to achieve?
Yeah.
Dude, for me, man, it's like the thing about what I do is like I have to go out there and like hunt to get dinner. Whereas like what I perceive for you,
Canadian. It's just old habits die hard.
but, dude, what I perceive with like you and like some other creator friends is like, dang, this guy, and it's not the reality, but it's like this guy just made a video and made $500,000 this month.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks, man.
Uh-huh.
And so it's like it definitely having the ability to do more social media. It's like here's something that's living out there forever. Old videos can go viral and it can create attraction. And if I step away from the business for 2 months, like money's still coming in.
Yeah. Oh, that's
so
great.
that's the reason that's how I see social media
Yeah.
incorporating into what we do.
Do you think that is advice that could be applicable to everyone? Like, should everyone have a social media?
Yes.
See, I think that too, and I've spoken to a couple creators and like, not everybody should do social media. And that's true, not everybody should do it, but I do suggest that probably maybe more than I should. And it's like, try social media, and it's like, do you like something? Do you have a hobby? Like, do it. It's not gonna, like, there's no bad outcome. Worst case scenario, there's like videos of you forever that you could look back when you're older and see like, that's cool, I've tried it.
Or your kids can
or
look
your
at
kids
them.
could watch it. I think that's so cool.
So what would be the main reason why like should everybody do social media?
Why? Because I think it's funny. I was watching a physicist, Michio Kaku, I don't know if you're familiar with him.
No.
He was talking about the future economy and like a type 1 civilization economy. And he says that in the future, say with automation, robotics, and AI, Like a lot of the manual labor stuff, a lot of the jobs that even now we feel like could not be automated are going to be automated. And what's going to be like the people that are supposed to be, that are going to be the most influential people are the people with the IP or with the creative thinkers and the people with an audience and the people who can direct attention. And I think we're seeing the small beginnings and the birth of it all.
I do agree with that, and like one thing, you know, I think with this, like it comes down to being a great communicator and like being able to
Storyteller.
communicate. Yeah, storyteller,
Yeah.
right? I don't know. I wouldn't say that everybody should have a social media though. I feel like you can go and understand too that hey, there's something you're passionate about, and you understand a piece of the puzzle. So like behind you, there's a person that's passionate about understanding the process to script write and do
True.
research for a content creator, and you could actually find a play where you plug in to someone that's doing that.
I agree.
But
Yeah, that is true.
yeah.
Everybody has a place that if they feel comfortable with, they could, you know, flourish in that space.
Ideally, it's a thing that can't be duplicated by a robot, but you guys have seen the ones that do social media now?
No.
Or like the fabricated like people on social media?
Yeah. Like, have you seen there was like one artist that got signed for his music, and he's an animated figure, and obviously there's someone behind.
I've
that
heard of
figure.
this recently. Yeah. Yeah. We were talking about this with my friends at Disneyland, where they were like, "Oh, it's going to be crazy because AI is going to generate actual people, not just like animated characters, but actual people who you might never even know they're not real.
Yeah.
They're computer generated. Can you imagine that? Like watching content for someone like, I love this person, and then finding out they don't exist.
Dude, we're like already there with Dolly, right?
Yeah.
Like that, they're creating now images, right?
Yeah,
that you
we were
put
just
in
playing with it today with Dylan.
Oh no way!
Other
The
Dylan.
other Dylan.
Yeah.
Does he have it?
Yeah,
Oh,
he
that's
has
so
it.
sick.
He has all. Yeah, it's like this crazy thing. You type in something abstract, like Chihuahua plays with ice cream on the moon, whatever,
Have you
and it
seen it?
actually.
The painting thing? Or no, is that
you put in the criteria?
Yeah, and it actually creates an image that doesn't exist, and it is so good at knowing what you're saying, as abstract as it is.
And then you own that data too. You own that picture.
Yeah, and we're only a couple months, maybe a couple of years at the longest away from doing that with video.
So that's crazy. Yeah. Like you guys have heard like the text to speech, right? And stuff.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that
yeah.
Stuff. It's getting better, but yeah, I would like to do content, but like have 3 or 4. There's Nicola, there's Nick Jr.
Yeah.
Dude, they're doing the videos.
That would be awesome. Yeah, could you imagine like, oh, who owns this IP? Like, who's the person behind this AI that everybody's watching? And what did they do different? How did they tweak their settings?
That's when
is it the physical look of this character? Is it the topics? Like, how do I create my character to get views?
But that's when you have the guy in like his mom's basement, and he's like making like this beautiful
He's a hot girl.
woman, but he's like,
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that.
Yeah. He's messaging guys back, like link to
That's,
my OnlyFans.
you know what's funny? You say that ironically, but that is probably going to be the first industry that capitalizes and succeeds with it. The adult,
pornography?
yes, the adult industry has always been on the cutting edge of every technology. They've been the first to implement like 360-degree cameras in e-commerce, like so many 4K technology before it was a thing. So they've been always pushing the boundary of like technological limits, and they were the first. And then magicians and that industry, believe it or not, are the 2 first industries to move on it.
well, on that end, I could see it, and then even with like so I don't know if you met. We met at the penthouse in the Palms.
Oh, we all met there
But
that night.
We did?
Yeah. Remember we went to Taco Tuesday. We went to Taco Tuesday.
at the
Yeah.
Palms
Yeah,
penthouse.
Oh my
he
gosh,
was there
yeah.
too.
But
yeah.
but the guy that has the penthouse, right? And he had different OnlyFans models and management, right? And,
Yeah.
Dude, they do have a team of gues on the back end messaging
You're right.
girls.
Yeah,
that,
Yeah, well, I forget what statistic I remember seeing, but it was like 90%, something ridiculous, like 90% of all the OnlyFans
Statistics are made
models.
up.
Yeah, that's true too. But like all the OnlyFans models don't answer their own messages. It's not them at all.
Sorry to break it to you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with like when it's gonna become like AI creating content, the need for or the quality content creator is less valuable than the marketing behind it, possibly, or like the strategy behind it, because you as a content creator, are you gonna get phased out by AI?
Probably at some point. I don't know. I guess it depends on how much people value reality versus not reality.
What if you don't know?
And then, exactly, what if you don't know? And then what if you get into the argument of like, well, what is reality? We're in the metaverse now, and that's a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah.
Have you guys played around with the metaverse?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
A little bit?
Yeah.
Do you own like land in there, or?
Oh, not like, I'm talking about, no, a little bit, nothing
bit.
crazy. But one of my buddies that worked for me actually, he did an NFT project, did $2 million in sales, like sold out, got hacked, lost $2 million, and was pretty essentially down to $10.
Jeez.
And basically what happened was, though, is he had a community. He was like, all right, guys, we're going to go and do this next. He added an add-on to it, but then he did another like $1.7 million. So he literally went from being like, all right, worth a few hundred K to being worth $2 million to being worth $10 to being worth like 1.5
again.
in 30-day
What?
period. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Jeez.
That was like the rush we were in though.
Yeah.
Like a year ago, you could put out like anything as NFT and you make something.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
yeah.
the marketing on that, like was.
Why did they
helping.
leave him $10? Were they just like, I feel bad for
no,
this
this
guy?
is what was
Stole
in
$2 million.
This was
just leave $10.
He literally had his checking account, right? But
Yeah.
he put in pretty much everything he had to make this project work. He literally put it all in crypto, and it was all in Ethereum wallet, and then he got hacked.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What do you guys own? You guys have crypto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's like your go-to?
Not like
Well,
crazy.
so you asked if I have land in the metaverse. I don't, because it's so hard to understand and know
Same.
what to buy.
I'm still trying to catch up.
But I own a fair amount of like the platforms, like Mana.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, and then what's the other one? Sandbox. Yeah. So I have those two. There's a third one that's.
This is the third one. I forget the name.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. So, but dude, I know you've been through some interesting stuff with crypto right now.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
No.
Dude, it sucks, man. Like people, we haven't spoke about it recently.
Sure.
But, and I don't know if that's.
Yeah, no, I could talk about it. It's crazy. So there were these companies that came around that were promising to take people's deposits and pay them an interest rate, right? Which is crazy because when you hear like a 10% APY, you're like, what? 10%? That sounds like a scam. But in the crypto world, because there's no really fees for custodying assets, not like physical banks, no branches, no customer service, they could pass on those cost savings to customers and pay them a 10% APY, and it worked for a while until those companies, I think, not necessarily were greedy as much as they were unaware, and partially greedy too, by loaning out customer assets to all these other platforms, and even though they were doing their due diligence of, like, let's say if I'm a bank, a crypto bank, and I have, let's say, $10 million on deposit, right? If I see Dylan, who's a client, who's also a corporation, I might be like, hey, Dylan, you look like a safe guy who makes money. Here's $10 million. You pay me an interest, and I pay my customers an interest. And the system kind of works as long as it's regulated, but it's not regulated. And because it's not regulated, these companies were taking crazy amounts of risk and sometimes leverage, and basically it came down to the point where, let's say Dylan took on a crazy risk and he put it all on red and it wasn't red, and then he lost my money, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, customers, I can't give you your money back. And that's kind of what happened to my crypto.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely, you could say it's my fault for sure, but in crypto there's that famous saying, it's like, not your keys, not your crypto, right? Luckily, the cost basis of my own actual money that I invested was 10% of my net worth, which is still a lot of money, but it's not the end of the world if I lose it. And
So it's
thankfully,
probably like $30 million.
yeah, exactly, 30 billion, something like that. Yeah.
So in 2017, the thing is, like, it just repeats.
Yeah, I
2017,
remember being in that cycle as well.
there was
in
a big
2017.
platform. I can't remember. I put like 20 G's in it
Yep.
at that time, but dude, the
Was it
money.
Mount Gox or?
No, that was 2014.
So I was doing 20.
That was like
That
one
was
of the
that
earlier
was the
ones.
first one, yeah.
I forgot, but same. I forgot the platform, but there was lawsuits, scandals. Guys got and then there was cloud mining. That,
Yeah.
in 2017.
I did
I
that.
remember doing.
I did cloud mining, yeah.
Dude, they went away though.
They
Like,
did.
One of the companies I used went away.
Yeah.
there's-
So cloud
yeah.
mining, by the way, if you're not familiar, if you're watching this, you're like, what are they talking about? Cloud mining was one of those concepts where, at the time, everybody wanted to get into mining, like, their own crypto. But it was also expensive. And I think the hardest part was like learning about it. It was
Yeah.
so complicated. It wasn't as simple as like, let me buy this miner, plug it in, and I make money now. No, it was like you had to run code, and I was like, I don't know if I have time for this. So then this company came around. It was cloud mining.
So there's different ones.
There was a
Yeah,
couple. I'm
yeah,
not going to single out any
Yeah.
company, but there's a bunch of companies that were basically born out of that need, where they promised, based on how much you paid, they would lend you a certain percent of their hash power.
Yeah.
So they were the ones that were running these distribution centers, crazy amounts
Big,
of
huge,
huge
yeah.
centers. And let's say you give them $1,000, they're like, cool, we'll give you 0.01% of our
Kind of
hash
like Amazon
power.
AWS. You're
Exactly.
buying
Amazon
part of the server.
Web Services, exactly, for crypto. And it's funny because I was like, well, should I buy these? I was buying Dash, if you remember.
Yeah,
One of the
yeah,
cryptos
yeah.
called Dash. Not sponsored, not promoting it. I'm just randomly. That's what I was at the time interested in. I remember this. And I was like, okay, I could either buy $1,000 worth of Dash, or I could give $1,000 worth to this company to mine it for me. I was like, let me see what it's going to do with mining. So I paid them $1,000, and I think every week they give you a payout, like small amounts. And I ran this contract because it's a contract for like a year. And at the end of the year, it gave me way less than $1,000 worth of the actual crypto. I was like, it was so much more worth it to just buy it on an exchange
Yeah.
than it was to try to mine it. Now, I don't know if that's still the case, but
I'm not sure. Yeah.
I think it's not worth doing the whole
Well,
cloud
mining went through like a whole challenge where it was more and more people were doing it, so it became saturated and people were getting less and less.
Yeah.
And then it became more and more expensive.
Yep.
And now that crypto's like dropped a lot, I don't even know how people. A lot of miners couldn't afford
They
it.
left, yeah, because their rewards are not as big. So they left, which is funny because crypto, well, at least Bitcoin and Ethereum, their difficulty adjusts. So when there's less people mining, the reward is technically higher because there's less people to share block rewards with.
Interesting. So people are making more and more, or probably about the same now that it dropped down. And
Well, it depends on how many people are mining. I don't have like the data offhand, but yeah, that's how it works. It's supposed to incentivize you to keep securing the network.
so what these crypto companies that were trading out like interest in exchange for they're holding on to your crypto, they were doing essentially what banks do now.
Yeah.
But it wasn't backed by the government, and so
Right.
that's why it all went.
Correct. And because there's no SIPC insurance, which is the insurance for stocks or for brokerages, and there's no FDIC insurance, which is for bank deposits. FDIC, I think, secures you for like $500,000 in cash and stock. Might be more now, but I think it was $500K. And there were none of those insurances for these crypto companies, but they were some of them claiming that they were FDIC insured. There was a big brokerage or a big crypto company recently that got pinched by the SEC for claiming to be FDIC insured. But the reason they were advertising it is because their partner bank, they were FDIC insured. So they were using them to put customer deposits in, but they by themselves were not technically FDIC insured. Yeah. So the SEC came out and was like, hey, you guys can't advertise you're FDIC insured. Your partner banks are, but you are not. So we're seeing these regulatory crackdowns happen slowly throughout the industry. It'll probably speed up if we get like something major happen, but there's a couple things that already happened. And I don't know. We're not seeing the crazy regulations yet, but they're cracking down slowly for sure.
Even that's like a catch statement on the claim. Our partner banks are FDIC
Yeah.
insured. It still looks like they are.
Right.
Yeah,
If that was a statement, right?
Right. No, yeah. To the average person who's unaware, like they don't know. So it's crazy. A lot of people, if you guys remember the collapse of Terra Luna,
Yeah.
that was a scary
was crazy.
thing. That was a crazy,
have
scary
any?
thing. I did not. Thankfully, I didn't.
What? Yeah, there was like a scandal before that too, and then it happened, and
Yeah. Gosh, how did Terra Luna go down? They were lending money to another platform. It's just like it.
It's not funny. I was thinking about the Reddit page where there was actually some really sad stories in there.
Yes.
But there was some funny ones where the guy's like, "Don't worry, guys, we're gonna bounce back from this."
Oh yeah, no, it's funny. It's funny, but it's like very sad actually. Yeah, what happens on Reddit
not
as
funny.
far as
It's not-
the support lines from people. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's-
I had like when Terra Luna was dropping,
Yeah.
I had like a crap load of USDT because I took a lot of my other crypto and put it in USDT.
Yeah.
And I was like, what if this happens to USDT
yeah.
too?
Oh, it's probably gonna happen at some point.
So what I did is I converted all to US dollars, and there was like a nice little like fee that got tapped onto that, but I'm like, at least it's safe.
Sure.
And then it dropped like a little bit, like 2 cents. I was like, I was right. Like, and then it went right back up. So
Yeah, sorry. So Terra Luna, the Three Arrows Capital was the company that everyone believed was solvent and was solid. So they gave them a ton of money, And yeah, one thing led to another, and Three Arrows Capital pretty much sunk the whole crypto world. It was like a domino effect of everyone being like, his money's gone, I gave it to him, and then I gave it to him, and I gave it to him. And
It's like the Spider-Man meme. Where
yeah, they're like, who lost it? I don't know. All of us did.
So for people watching this, like looking to get into investing, do you advise them to like just keep going for the moon with crypto? Do you?
I don't advise people to do anything. And it's funny because sometimes, like when you're in the YouTube space, sometimes you make videos with pretty crazy titles.
Yeah.
Where it's like, the recession's coming.
Yeah.
And people are like, stop being dramatic. And it's funny is I'm not making the prediction that a recession is coming. I'm just grabbing a headline and I'm trying to make sense of why people are saying that. So I don't give people advice. I just try to make sense of it. And then I show people what I'm doing. And then I say, you know, I could be wrong. Here's what I'm doing. And, you know, what I do is I dollar cost average into both Bitcoin and Ethereum and the S&P 500 over time. And interesting statistic, if you've been in Bitcoin for 4 years in a rolling period, you've always made money. You've made more money at the end of the 4-year period than if you had, you know, than what you started with. For the stock market, it's actually 20 years. It's a 20-year rolling period. So if you were invested without selling for 20 years consecutively, you will have always had more money than you started with. So that's the end goal.
So for someone like looking into finance investing, obviously you're not going to give advice, but like, you know, going back to your younger self, 20 years old, what would the play be? Would it be the FIRE movement and just kind of like what would it be?
I think it'd be the exact same thing I just did. Yeah. And I think that was the right move. I think social media is, for at least for now, the space to be in. But who knows in the future? Might be AI, might be robotics. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Dude, I think like definitely the metaverse is going to be huge.
Yeah.
Like talk about cutting edge. Like I know, like VR is like they're like whole porn companies, sites like that produce VR. Magic, you know, people are creating in
experiences.
Experiences.
Yep.
And so if you this was your words was like those are two industries that are cutting edge.
Yes.
Well, let's look at what they're doing and then like model.
Those are the industries to follow for those things. But I think social media today. It's funny because in 2019 I remember people were saying like, YouTube is too late. And I remember in 2014 people were like, it's too late. It's too saturated. Every single year people say that. And I think
there's always someone new coming up.
It's always someone new. There's always something going on. Those platforms change. But 5 years from now, even 3 years from now, we're going to look back at 2022 and be like, man, I wish I started in 2022 before all this happened, you know, before we got 1 trillion views on the platform, whatever it is.
Who's like someone that you're looking at now that's maybe like smaller that you see and they're like rising and you're like, damn, that kid's on it.
Yeah, gosh, you know, I don't try to consume as much content anymore. I don't want to be like influenced by it, so I just kind of. But there's always somebody. Like Mr. Beast
that
is
Graham
obviously.
Stephan guy, I think he's
on the
rise.
come up. He's on the come up. Yeah. Meet Kevin might be making a comeback. You never know. He's quit 15 times.
Do you feel like that's part of it though? Like people come up and like for me, so after I left Grant's office, I actually used to do influencer management. So I would go and do deals where I'd build out their e-commerce store and they have profit share on their merchandise.
Okay.
But basically, like people were influencers and then they're not because they get burned out on content.
Yeah.
And it's like there's some people that could keep going.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's always opportunity because you have guys that are doing it now, but they're burnt out in 5 years.
Yeah. No, that's I think one of the most important things is to like pace yourself properly. And luckily, I'm not a vlog channel, and I think vlogging is very, very difficult. You burn out a lot faster. Thankfully, I can just like sit in a chair, and I still do a lot of work, and I research, and I spend 30 hours a video. So there's obviously still some burnout, but at least I can pace myself, and I do think that's a huge element between people that are going to be around now versus 10 years from now.
Dude, I was watching Andrew Tate on Patrick Bet-David's podcast.
Yeah.
And he said he compared himself, because he's got a brother, to Logan and Jake Paul.
Okay.
And he said Logan Paul's a clown. And because he was a vlogger and he was a clown, he was just dancing for money, which is the vlogging. And he claims that Logan has inherent jealousy because Andrew Tate has created content about helping people. He's more of like a philosopher. So it's interesting how, you just said it, like you're more of like a philosopher, analyst,
Sure.
financer.
I don't even know what I am.
And so, but you created content that people will come up to you and they probably say you changed their life.
Yeah, that happens quite a bit. Like from time to time, if someone comes up like, "Oh my gosh, I watched your videos and it changed my life," and it's the coolest thing to hear that I've influenced to some
Well, I don't know
degree.
if PewDiePie or vloggers are.
No,
creating
they
that
get the
for
same
people.
thing. They get
Really?
that same thing. Yeah, they've changed their life and that they got them through really difficult times in their life, and they were there to watch them and watched them live out, and be happy, and it inspired them to, pick themselves up. And I think you have a bigger impact than you think, no matter what industry you're in. It just so happens that finance maybe is like more tangential and more measurable, but even the vloggers make people really happy and make a difference in their life.
Yeah.
So, dude, we'll wrap here, but I want to ask you one more question, which was like, your people that follow you and watch you, what's something that you think they'd be interested in hearing from you that you don't really talk about or share, or they don't really know?
How would I know?
You don't really talk much outside of the content. You don't have a vlog channel or anything
don't,
like that.
yeah.
So people probably don't really know. Like, you don't really need it. You on camera.
Who is Andrei Jikh?
Who is he actually?
Off camera.
That's a good title. We'll run with that. Who is Andrei Jikh? Andrei Jikh. For the longest time, I didn't know if it was Jikh or.
It's like magic. Jikh.
Yeah. I know now,
Jikh.
but like when.
Yeah.
Like. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I am someone who can't finish a Monopoly game.
Neither one of us could.
How high is your IQ?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Never mind.
Do you know yours?
Yeah.
He said, yeah. What is it?
It's like 138.
Is that a good?
I don't. It's like it's smart.
He's an Ivy League dropout.
Oh my God, I love the way he
yeah.
said it. He's like,
I'm a junior college dropout.
No.
I don't know.
I'm really not that smart.
I feel like I value EQ more than
EQ is
IQ.
important, yeah.
Yeah, and I know people say that EQ is associated with agreeableness, right? They're like, oh,
How
that just
agreeable you
means
are.
you're agreeable. I don't think that's true at all. I think EQ is being able to read the room and say that even if you're right, you don't always have to interject and correct people. It's knowing you might be right, but not needing to always maybe prove it or be in the spotlight, and to be empathetic and to.
So my understanding of EQ, because like there's actually a book called like Sales EQ.
Mm-hmm.
It's being able to have the awareness of understanding, emotional
People's needs. Yeah.
and emotional perspective where you can almost sit in their shoes and really see their
Yes.
viewpoint and be
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And would you say that the top leaders of the world, are they more EQ or IQ heavy?
I don't think I just wanted to ask the IQ thing. I don't think it's really a thing.
You don't think it's a thing?
I mean, I think it's a thing. I would probably, we do IQ tests if we onboard someone.
Really?
Yeah.
Before
we
you
do.
guys hire people, you do IQ tests?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it a free thing, or could I take one?
Yeah, I mean, you could. The one we do is paid, but you could do free
It'd be
ones.
so funny if I took it and they're like, we would not hire you. We would just not.
Yeah.
You have failed.
Above 120 IQ is like they could actually be someone that can like work with other people and like be like
okay.
a leader or a manager. Below
Okay.
120, they can kind of do the deal.
What, isn't there like a Machiavellian test as well?
There's a lot of
Or-
Dark Triad.
The Dark Triad, is that what it is?
I did that one at a Ty Lopez mastermind.
Oh.
Yeah, he had people do it.
What is the point of it again? It's which personalities?
Narcissism.
Which personalities are more better for sales?
It's Machiavellism, which is like how likely you are to like screw people over.
And in a sales position, to be really good at sales, which do you lean toward
I mean,
to be good?
ideally, like depends on your type of sales. Like we build a real organization. Like,
Yeah.
With good morals and values.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to like,
I guess what I'm asking, if I'm an employer, where do I want my salespeople to fall under?
We don't do that test like for the Dark Triad thing. We have a test that looks like they're. And the thing is this, we don't take it for what it is, but it's
Yeah.
like if the guy really did have a high score of like being like unstable, narcissistic, and
okay.
like just really big red flags, like this might be a serial killer. Like we
God.
probably don't want to hire him.
Jeez.
But if they're just normal, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
No, I've always been curious, like which positions in job industries do they look for as far as like, oh, this is a very narcissistic person, he'll fit in great. Like, which position is that?
So what they do say is they say that people
CEO.
high in narcissism, guilty. People high in narcissism tend to be more successful across the board.
Yeah, no,
And
I've
it's probably because the belief in oneself.
right.
And in order to succeed in anything, you need to have serious
Conviction and ignorance.
ignorance, exactly.
Ignorance, yeah,
Because you
in
need
your
to
abilities.
Not listen to other
It's
people.
the Dunning-Kruger effect.
And just think you're better than everyone else.
Yeah.
What's the steady Kruger effect?
The Dunning-Kruger effect is that your belief and confidence in your own abilities is inversely proportional to your actual understanding of something. So the less you know about something, the more you are convinced that you know everything about it. And the more you learn about something, like it's true, the more I learn about economics, I'm like, I'm an idiot. I don't know what I'm talking about. Like I don't know. The more I learn about it, the more passive I become. It's just like, man, I'm just dumb. I don't understand this stuff. I try to, but
that's why you do so well with it, because you're not this like, I know everything and I'm just
Right.
going to talk.
yeah, I know, but I think that's part of being a good content creator is being vulnerable with people. And I found out early on, it's like, if you have a insecurity about yourself, whether it's physical, mental, or whatever it is, the internet will call you out about it, and they will tell you, hey, what's that thing on your face? Or like, hey, whatever, I don't like your voice. Whatever it is that you're insecure about yourself, the internet will tell you. So I might as well stay ahead of it and be aware of it and tell people like, hey, I'm not perfect. I don't know. There's people way smarter than me, way more successful. Listen to them. Here's my perspective, and here's why I think it, and here's the data to shows why I think that. I could be wrong. That's kind of the best I could do.
Well, dude, thanks for being here, man. So Andrei is the champion of today, the Monopoly champion,
Yay.
finance expert.
Of the unfinished game of Monopoly.
Well, hey, what could we expect, dude? You are the finance expert.
I'm not an
Finance
expert.
wizard.
I am not a wizard, just a normal dude. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe, smash the like button, and comment down below. Tell us who you should think we should bring on next time.
Yeah.
That'd be a good idea.
I am the host now.